Hi, I'm Barbara Hall, co-author of Sadie's Secret, a real story. Today I'm going to read an excerpt from Sadie's Secret. Mike Byrne from the Palmetto County Historical Society has gone out to interview Sadie as a project for the Palmetto County Historical Society. The big 'un took care of me. He was big, hairy, ugly as all get out, and smelly. He didn't speak either, but he was kind and gentle. We lived in the shelter of cypress stakes and palmetto fronds near the Indians. The big one? Sandy didn't tell me anything about him. Oh, I remember Johnston too. He came from the northwest somewhere by the Gulf, maybe New Orleans, but I didn't believe him. Why? He wasn't no city man. He was a swamp man. He moved in with us until he built his cabin. What did the big 'un do for a living? The big 'un passed time in the slough. He slept in the woodshed or the porch when it rained. What about Johnston? Well, Johnston was my husband. Sadie stopped and became pensive. If it hadn't happened, he'd be here now. If what hadn't happened? Things are hard in the slough. We made everything by hand. Johnston built this cabin with his hands. Some ranchers chipped in, and the big 'un helped some, and some neighbors, but Johnston did most of it, and finished it in about a year. Johnston joined a partner up the river, Seth Turner, came up here from up Tallahassee way with a wagon load of equipment to set up a sawmill. They made the boards for this cabin and the furniture. They went trading, too, with alligator hides, bird feathers, fish, mud turtles, and alligator meat, plus what the Indians made, duck carvings and palmetto baskets and necklaces to Sawgrass Bay, and sometimes to Miami. Johnston was a good man, and sometimes he went trading. What he liked to do most was he filled his jug with whiskey. In the end, that jug was his undoing. He'd get stinking drunk for a day or two, then he'd settle down and go back to work. I stayed away when he got that jug. I saw the big picture. He was a good man, except for that jug. What happened to the big one? Johnston shared that jug with the big 'un just once. The big 'un never had drunk liquor before. Both had too much. I could hear 'em letting on real loud into the night. It was a bad mistake. Sounded like they got to wrestling around, and it got out of hand. Johnston was no match for the big 'un, so Johnston had to shoot him. Johnston shot the big 'un? Johnston said he had to defend himself. After the shot, I heard the big 'un howl a bit. Then it was quiet. Too quiet. I waited for Johnston to sleep it off. He'd be all right once he slept it off. Next day, he said the big 'un died of that shot. He told me he'd take care of things. He tried, but he couldn't move the big 'un. What did he do? Johnston buried him right where he was. When I came out, there was this mound behind the cabin. It was made of sand, mud, and rocks to keep the swamp critters away. It looked real nice. He couldn't dig a grave because once he'd start digging, the hole would fill up with water. So he made the mound. Johnston buried the big one behind the cabin? Yep, he's buried right where he fell. The mound's like a memorial. You hid inside the whole time? You bet. I didn't come out until Johnston told me. You can see it down the boardwalk. Then you'll know I'm telling the truth. I assume you reported it to the authorities. This is the slough. The slough takes care of its own. There's no authorities here. Never was, never will be. There's things about the slough, best kept secret. What happened to Johnston? That jug. That jug finally got him too. Last time I saw him, he went trading with Seth. Said something happened on the way back. About 3 years after that business with the mound. Seth came back alone. They'd stopped on the riverbank for the night, and Johnston did what he never did. And what was that? He started drinking down the river. When Seth woke, Johnston was gone. No one ever saw him again. Maybe he ran off. If you knew Johnston, you'd know better. He'd be here if he could. Must have slipped off that raft, fell in the water, and drowned. Seth gave me what Johnston traded for. After that, Seth went on up to the mill. He never did recover. He missed Johnston just as much as me. When he lost Johnston, he lost his best friend. Well, I'm not so sure Johnston drowned. I am. I knew Johnston. When Seth dropped off that jug, it was half full. Johnston never wasted a drop of whiskey. I bet he stood on the raft's edge to answer nature's call, as menfolk do when they get to drinking, lost his balance, and fell in. Probably some fool thing that simple. I told him if he was going to nurse that jug, do it where I could keep an eye on him. I promised I'd say nothing about that jug, and I never did. Why do you think Johnston drowned? 'Cause he couldn't swim none. It's a thing a body knows. Seth stayed on a bit, but it wasn't the same. He couldn't find another partner to get along with, so he moved back north. He said I could take anything from the mill. The place was mine. Sounds like you got the better part of an uneven deal. He said he owed Johnston wages, so it was fair. Everything was too big, so I gave it all away. You gave away a sawmill? Yep. What could I do with it? Did you see the white fence up by the highway? Sure, that was my cue to turn onto the Shell Road. When I met the old man, he went up to the mill to make the fence boards, so I gave the mill to the Circle T. Of course, they've replaced most of the boards now. They're a lot like me. How's that? They're getting up in years. To hear more of Sadie's secret, read the book. Thank you so much.